Hello, and welcome to the Advisor Training on Competitive Events. My name is Janice Akao, and I'm the Kansas PBL State Advisor. Before we begin, I wanted to remind everyone of the PBL's mission. So FBLA PBL's mission is to inspire and prepare students to become community-minded business leaders in a global society through relevant career preparation and leadership experiences. These competitive events are designed to help with that career preparation and also provide some leadership experiences. As you've probably noticed, your students have a very competitive streak, and PBL events are an outlet for them to challenge their skills and knowledges against other PBL members across the state as well as the nation. PBL provides them to be recognized at both the state and national level. It's important that you should emphasize as advisors to your members that everyone is a winner just by competing. Through these competitive events, PBL members are going to demonstrate and validate the mastery of essential business concepts, skills, and knowledge. PBL has several different event types. Students can choose to compete as an individual. They could also compete as a member of a team, or they can also be part of the chapter competition. We also have several different types of categories of events, and so these are the main ones: objective test, production test, performance, and reports. Okay. These different event categories could be a combination. So we have some events that are just an objective test. It is a 60-minute test that is taken online. There's others that will be an objective test that's also combined with a performance, such as a role play. One example of that is business decision making. The students take an objective test on basic business concepts, and then they'll also receive a case where they will have to present their findings in that case to the judges. We also have some that where it's an objective test as well as a production component. For instance, cost accounting. The students will take an objective test, and they will also produce in Excel various different solutions to cost accounting problems. Other events might be a production with a performance. So the students might actually produce a website, and then they'll actually do a performance, a presentation where they will present their website to the judges. We also have some that are a report. So we have a local annual chapter business report. That is just a report. But we have other ones where it's a report combined with a performance. For instance, small business management plan. Students write a business plan, and then they present their plan in front of judges. Then there are some events that are just performance. We have some that are just speaking events, so public speaking and also impromptu speaking. And then I would fit our interview events into that category as well. So lots of different opportunities for students based on the different types of events that they feel comfortable with. Now, to be eligible to compete, the students need to be paid PBL members. In Kansas, for them to compete at our state leadership conference, they need to be paid by the date of registration, which is going to be March 10th. The students can choose to compete in up to 5 different events. Of those 5 events, though, we would like only 2 of them to be a performance type event, where they will actually be making some type of presentation in front of judges. Since our state leadership conference is all completed in one day, it becomes kind of a scheduling nightmare if they are in several events that have objective tests as well as performance, and also are working part of a team. And so because of that, we've decided to just limit them to 2 performance events, and then they can choose 3 others if they'd like. So I do want to point out, though, that at the national level, they do only allow 2 events for the students. So the students are going to have to actually qualify at the state level in order to compete at nationals. So we may have some students who compete in 5 different events at the state level that will need to then choose which of those 5, which 2 they would like to continue and compete at nationals on. We are going to do a bit of some of the events slightly different than the national center has decided to do this year. For instance, we have some of the events, they're going to start giving the cases the night before, and they give those cases to students that have qualified for finals. We are not doing finals. The only event that we potentially might have finals in would be job interview, and that will just depend on how many competitors we have in that event. All other events will do both the objective test as well as the performance, where at nationals, they do the objective tests to determine if they move on to finals. So ours will do both. I do want to point out some important dates that'll be, you can let your members know about, because it's never too early to start preparing for these competitive events. So our State Leadership Conference, which we refer to as SLC, is going to be held on April 10th at Emporia State University. We certainly appreciate Emporia offering to host it again this year. As I've mentioned earlier, registration will be due March 10th. So it's on March 10th that you will email to me the list of students that are planning on attending SLC, as well as a list of each student and which up to 5 events that they would like to compete in. Then on March 11th, events that have production materials, production tests that they're going to have to do at their home school site, I will be emailing those out. Those need to be completed and returned to me March 26th. So these prejudged events would be things similar like the cost accounting principles. And these are events that do need to be proctored. So you, as the advisor or your designated representative, will need to proctor them. Other prejudged materials that need to be turned in by March 26th would be any of the interview events, job interview, future business executive, future business educator. Their resume, cover letter will need to be emailed to me on March 26th. So if you do look at the national guidelines, they say they want 6 of them prejudged, or 6 of them in folders. Don't worry about that. I'll just take the 1 and then I will print them off. The other thing that's going to be different, future business educator. At nationals, they don't need it ahead of time, but we do. Any of the reports are considered prejudged, and so those would also be due March 26th. If you have a student that's competing in the website design type, so where they're preparing something, I need the URL by March 26th. And so those should, I think I've covered most of the prejudged materials. So how can you help your students actually prepare for the various events? So let's go and look at the PBL website. So I'm going to stop sharing this PowerPoint, and I'm going to now share a different screen where we will see the actual website. So This is the fbla-pbl.org website. If you look under here, under divisions, here's the PBL. The chapter management handbook has the competitive events as well as other things contained in it. Just for today's purposes, it's easier if I just go right directly to competitive events. So this complete competitive event guidelines is a PDF file that you can download. But let's look at some of the other items underneath it. Okay, so this is something new that they've added this year, is they have listed actually the competencies for each of the various subjective tests. So you'll see they're all listed here. So let's just look at cybersecurity as an example. So if your students was to look into this one, I made my screen just a little bit larger. These are the various different competencies that they expect the student to know. And so they have a minimum of points for each of them. And so this is something that would be great for the students to look at. These competencies are what is given to the test writers for the event. So they're going to be writing tests based on this type of thing. If you can find any textbooks, a bunch of different textbooks that you could provide to the students on their various particular subjects, that would be extremely helpful. At a minimum, they should focus on vocabulary as well as like the end of chapter summaries. So those are all available for all the different objective tests. Some of the events do have, well, I'm sorry, I'm going to go to the next sheet, the rating sheets. So for the performance or presentation type events, here's a PDF file that lists all of the different competitive events. And so you can scroll down. And so let's look at, for instance, I'm trying to, business decision making. Okay, so here's their performance part. So they're given a case, and so they're evaluated on their content of what they actually say, and then they're rated on how they actually deliver the content. There are penalties. So for this particular event, there are 7 minutes is what the presentation time is, so they are penalized for going over the time. If they don't follow the particular guidelines as outlined in the case, they would be penalized there. And there's also a dress code penalty. They do not follow the dress code. So they have those for each of the various different performance events, and as well as any of the prejudged. So if you have reports, trying to find it. Sorry, there was one here. Let's see. The community service, I just flew past that one. Let me see if I can get back to it. But the community service project, they actually write a report and then they do a presentation on it. Okay, so here's their performance. See if this one, and here's their report. So if there's a component like that, you would definitely want to look and make sure that the report meets the guidelines, and then also the performance part. Great way to have the students practice their performance is to have them practice in front of other PBL members. You could have them practice in front of a class. You could get other professors, staff to for them to practice in front of. And it's always a good idea to give the people the rating sheet so that they can judge them. And so that would definitely help provide great feedback to the person so that they could improve for their actual performance. For the interview events, again, you might have people from your advisory committee serve as judges for them to practice interviewing. Again, you can have school staff or faculty, etc. Then I'm going to go down to, they've listed some particular events that they've modified for this year. So if you are familiar with some of the other ones. So administrative support technology, they've changed the title, but what they've done is previously we had an event called administrative technology and another one called computer applications. So they've just combined it into one new production test. So the students who decide to compete with this, on March 11th, I would send the production materials, would be proctored at their home site. They would create the documents, send those to me. I'm back by March 26th. And then at SLC, they would just have the objective test to take. Digital media was previously known as computer animation. So they just changed the title. This is one that the presentation, they actually do use equipment. There's other presentations where no equipment is allowed. Future business executive, this was a change that they made at the national level. We have always asked for the resumes to be sent ahead of time. They are now requiring that for both this future business executive and job interview. The last few years, the students have just turned in their resumes on the first date of nationals. Yeah. Right. So then their other modification, I think I've mentioned previously, is that for role play type events, the role finalists are going to receive the case study the night before the event. We will not be doing that. They will, because we're not having finals, and they will get their case that day and have 20-30 minutes to prepare for it. Right, so there are some particular events that have a topic that the students actually need to prepare for. So for business ethics, their topic is, should businesses be held responsible for implementing practices to protect the environment? So they need to prepare both the positive and negative implications of holding businesses responsible. So this is something that they prepare for in their presentation. Business law, they research a particular court case, prepare that for their presentation. Business presentation, they actually create a PowerPoint presentation on this particular topic. Same with business sustainability. Here, they're do some research and prepare a presentation on that topic. And now with desktop publishing, they're going to create a brochure, poster, and newsletter that follows the particular topic for this year. Digital media, they're going to create, again, a computer animation. They're going to utilize computer animation to create informational videos on the subject. And then emerging business issues, again, they're going to do some research and create a presentation on the topic. Future business educator, they actually create a unit lesson plan and present it. And so there's the topic that they want the lesson plan on. Social media challenge, again, there's the topic that they're going to be creating their social media campaign on. And then strategic analysis and decision making, here's the actual case that they need to research. And so they need to be prepared to present that. And then the last one, website design, they create an actual website on this particular topic. So there's a lot of these, especially where they're doing a lot of research. It's great experience for the students to do. I also think it's great experience for students to practice and actually get in front of judges doing any type of presentation. I know there's a lot of students, that's people's biggest fear, standing up, doing public speaking, but they're going to need to. So it's a great way to help them really put themselves out there and grow in their skills. So I personally encourage my students to compete in some type of event that's in person in front of judges, even if it's just the job interview event, because they're going to have a job interview at some point in their life. So it's great practice. So definitely encourage your students to start looking at these and getting ready, because as I mentioned earlier, it's never too early to start. We want our students to be prepared and put their best foot forward in front of those judges and represent Kansas well at nationals. Thank you so much for attending this video, and I hope you have learned a lot. And always, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. It's jakao@butlercc.edu. Thank you.